All right, guys, welcome back to the channel A10 MMA. Today, we're going to be discussing countries that will never, ever, ever have a UFC champion. Not even in a fantasy realm will these countries have a UFC champion. And, if you're from these countries, cope, but you're never getting a UFC champion. All right, starting off our list, we have Somalia. Somalia is never going to be having a UFC champion. Just look at the physiognomy of these people and decide if you could ever imagine, somebody from Somaliland becoming a UFC champion. It's not possible. There's no way in hell that there will ever be a Somalian champion. The physiognomy is all wrong. They look very, cross-eyed. They look very, interesting, right? So Somalia is never getting a UFC champion. Jumping to the next country, we have India. India will never be getting a UFC champion. It's just not going to happen. The Anshul Jubilee experiment is over. He got knocked out, brutally twice. And, both of the guys he got knocked out by are not, that good, right? Not that good whatsoever. There's the other one, Poop Jaw or whatever her name is. The other Indian in the UFC. Poop Jaw's not becoming a champion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the Indian boys out there. I respect you, but you're never going to be getting a UFC champion in your wildest dreams, right? Now, moving on our list, we're not going to touch on this country too much because I do not want to get my channel Giga nuked. But Israel will most likely never be getting a UFC champion. I'm sorry, guys. Natan Levy is never going to be doing anything. You see in Cage Warriors, it's like there's always an Israeli guy just getting viciously knocked out, with a negative record. There's always an Israeli guy losing on Cage Warriors. And, that's honestly, like, the peak of Israeli fighting. I don't think I don't think Krav Maga is really going to be helping them in the UFC octagon. I think it's a losing battle. Natan Levy is like the peak of MMA talent, and overall, like, name 5 Israeli athletes. You know what I mean? That are like, name your top 5 favorite Israeli athletes. You can't. You can't even name one realistically that you actually enjoy watching. So no, I'm not getting political here. Israeli MMA doesn't look too good right now, and I don't picture them ever getting a UFC champion. Now, moving on, Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia. I still consider it Rhodesia, but realistically, all the real Rhodesians have probably vacated the premises of Zimbabwe. There's probably about 5 actual white people left in Zimbabwe. So yeah, I don't think a Zimbabwean is ever going to become a UFC champion. I believe Themba Garimbo is Zimbabwean. The Rock gave him a house and all that, right? He was promoted by the UFC very heavily, and then he just gets smoked, right? So the Themba Garimbo experiment is over. Zimbabwe MMA is cooked. You guys are never getting a UFC champion in your lives. I'm sorry, man. The Zimbabwe experiment is over. Moving on our list, This will likely be the final country on part 1. I could definitely make a part 2 though, maybe touch on some different countries here, but Canada modern day Canada is never getting a UFC champion. Canada is even worse than the US when it comes to just the amount of soy boys in the country. The old stock Canadians are just completely cooked. Mike Mallet is such a little fruitcake. He's just a soy boy, bro. It's just like GSP, was the peak. I'm a big GSP fan, but I don't think there's ever gonna be a new real Canadian champion, right? And the people that are moving into Canada, obviously the Indians, they are not going to become UFC champions either. Let's just keep it real. It's just not going to happen. Canada's cooked, and the diversity isn't really going to be helping their chances here. All right, guys. So that was the video. Let me know in the comments if you want a part 2. Obviously, like the video. Subscribe if you want more. Little quick fun videos like this. I think this is a very fun video idea. Maybe we could do a deeper dive into each of these countries as well to see who their best MMA prospects are, maybe few and far between, but that might be a fun idea as well. So let me know. Maybe I can do a deep dive into Indian MMA and see who the best Indian prospect is right now. Who's going to become it? Who's the next generation of Indian MMA talent after Poopjaw and Anshul Jubilee? They get out of the UFC. Who's going to be coming in, right? That's maybe we could check that out. But in the meantime, subscribe. Let me know. Give me ideas for content, and let me know if you like the video. All right, boys. Peace.